I was a broken person and I knew it. And my friends and family around me knew it. And it had kind of just got to the point where there was no point staying on and hitting my head against a brick wall. But to pick up the phone and say, I need help, I'm not the person that I want to be, that's brutal. And when I had my initial consultation with her, I walked out of it, rang a friend of mine who I know has been in therapy for a very long time and was like, I hate this. And it was a hard journey and it is work. When they say that therapy is work, it is. The courage that it takes to show up and to be prepared to make those changes in your life it's immense. Well, I don't want to go back. Like it made me feel things that I don't want to feel things. That's it. That's the point.
Cool. So welcome to Bro Talk and a very interesting, unusual guest. Interested because of what she's going to share, and unusual because it's not a guy, it's a female. Xanthe. Welcome as a first female guest on Bro Talk.
Oh, it is an honor.
It's
an absolute honor.
And you'll understand why she's been invited to today's show because of what she's got to share, particularly for those of you working in the yacht industry, pearls of wisdom from personal experience and professional insights. Welcome. Whereabouts are you in the world? Where are you from?
I'm in Palma. I'm in one place. I'm in Palma, Mallorca at the moment, but usually I can be found literally anywhere else, wherever my suitcase is home. Hopefully by the end of that year, that'll be back in New Zealand. But at the moment, Palma.
So Xanthe, tell us straight to it. Wave Wellness. Tell me what it's about, why you've created it, and what you aim to do.
Yeah. So Wave Wellness is, in corporate speak, is an employee assistance program. So to break that down, it is a platform that employers provide their employees with as a benefit, in addition to salary and leave and all the rest of that. And it gives the employees access to confidential support for their wellbeing. So the way that I'd structured Wave Wellness is we've got quite a big focus on mental health, and I work with a whole bunch of incredible psychotherapists from around the world. But the special thing about Wave Wellness is, and really core to what I'm doing, is that all of these people have worked on yachts or in the yachting industry. So they, like yourself, understand the nuances, the weird little things about the fact that you can't go take a 5-minute walk around the deck when you're halfway through a service or you're across the Atlantic or, all of those funny things that yachting is. But aside the psychotherapy support, we also work with dietitians and nutritionists to provide crew and crew chefs and things with the support for them to make good decisions for crew so that they have a well-rounded and balanced diet that kind of supports that well-being on board, gives crew options for not just grabbing a pack of Oreos out of the snack cupboard.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, something slightly more protein focused, or if there's someone that really needs that sugar hit, that they're catering for all of those needs and they're able to get that holistic look. And then we're working with financial advisors. All of these people, by the way, have all worked in the industry. So that a lot of the nutritionists are ex-stews or chefs, financial advisors who have worked with yachties for decades, some of them. And so the financial advice side of things, they come into it and help support our employees with the advice they need to, whether it be for long-term investment and savings plans, for buying houses back home, for buying investment properties, or even just like how to sort their tax and what their obligations are for tax.
Do they pay tax?
Yeah, exactly. Do we pay tax? Don't ask my accountant. But it's giving people that support network so they know where they can go to get advice that is specific to the yachting industry, that they're talking to people that they're not going to have to explain what yachting is before they can even start digging into their personal stories or their backgrounds. So that's been huge for why I set it up. And the way that I've set it up is to really focus in on yachties and make sure that those employees are at the heart of everything that we put together. So Yeah, it's that side of it. I also work with ClassPass, which is like a international gym membership, and it gives yacht crew access, honestly, a huge number, in the tens or hundreds of thousands of gyms around the world, where they can pull into port, find somewhere that does their F45 class or is a yoga studio or something like that, and they can pop in and it's paid for by the boat or by their membership to Wave Wellness. It gives them that outlet and that ability to go and do something for themselves that can help them feel a little bit more at home and in control of their own lives.
So you've got the nutrition part, making them more financial literacy, and also the mental well-being. What's created? What's the why behind this?
So the why is, it's come from a really personal place. I've been on board since 2014, so you do the math on that one.
Okay.
I don't like the word decade.
Plus what?
Yeah, exactly. I started out very young. I was 17 when I got on board boats, so super young, some might say naive. And when I took a step back from the industry, I'd actually had quite a hard time on a boat we were quite isolated. We were cruising around a beautiful part of the world, but it was just so far away from friends and family and other boats that were cruising as well.
Yeah.
And I ended up having a bit of a tough relationship with the captain, who just, as it turned out, didn't get along, but for no particular reason. And it kind of created this really dark place for me to fall into. I stayed on for the rest of the season, got the boat back to beautiful Palma, but by then the damage was done. And for me, I needed to go home. And I'd realized that within myself, and people around me had also kind of said to me, you need to take a step back and you need to kind of come back to yourself. So I went home to New Zealand, took a job in marina management and worked shore base for 4 years or so. And in that time, I got access to a wonderful employee assistance program and started my own mental health journey. And when the call finally came for me to go back to yachting, and a friend of mine said, let's go chase some dolphins around the Pacific, it was kind of a no-brainer for me to take that support with me and, maintain contact with my support team that were shore-based and be able to have phone calls with them. But when I spoke about it to other people in the industry, it was unheard of. People couldn't believe that I was making time in my week to talk to a therapist in New Zealand while I was on a boat. And a lot of people wanted to know more and, how do you talk to the crew about it and all the rest of it. So It really started from this very personal place, and it still very much is. A lot of the people that I'm working with now have also got really personal stories. Like I was saying to you earlier, a lot of the psychotherapists that I work with, actually, it was their time on yachts that made them realize that they wanted to go into the psychology kind of side of things and understand our minds better and help other people feel better. And so it's, as a whole business, a lot of this is very heartfelt and comes from a place of care.
So, Xanthe, obviously with the agreement of confidentiality, to understand, can't share everything, but that's a huge decision to go into something that you're excited about, passionate about, you're early in your career, and due to a relation with a particular member that's not going well, you then decide, okay, at the end of the season, I'm quitting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was big. It was, to be honest, it feels like it wasn't really a decision that I made in the end. It kind of was a no-brainer. I had to leave. I didn't have to leave the vessel. I wasn't being fired or anything, but in terms of my mental and emotional state, I was a broken person, and I knew it, and my friends and family around me knew it. And it had kind of just got to the point where there was no point staying on and hitting my head against a brick wall to stay on board that boat, or I couldn't really bring myself to look for another crew to go work for, because it was just, I didn't feel like me. I wasn't in a place to put anyone else in that environment with me, And so, yeah, it was a big decision. And, it was, I think 14, it was a lot easier to get a job on a boat than it is nowadays. Don't get me wrong, it was still a graft, but these days I do feel really bad for a lot of people who, to get their first job, it's it sounds horrific out there for junior crew. It really is people fighting tooth and nail to get jobs. They're barely paying what they were paying 10 years ago.
Right.
And so honestly, the position I was in when I left feels so much more privileged than when I look at people who are in the industry now, and they have absolutely scrapped to get these jobs. And if they end up in a situation like I was in, it's not an easy decision to leave that, because you don't know when that next job is coming. So in one way, I'd say I'm like pretty lucky with the time zone and the timing of when I was in this position, because I would hate to be in that same spot now, to be honest.
As you were talking, Xanthe, I think in a corporate organisation, you'd have a HR, if you had any issues with your superiors or fellow colleagues, and it would be termed as constructive dismissal, the fact that you felt you had to go. And can you give me some insight in regards to during that period whilst you were still working the boat, how did you manage it? Yes, you said important words, I wasn't me, which is speaks volumes.
Yeah.
How did you manage day to day?
Day to day, that was exactly how I managed, was day to day and just focusing on one day at a time. And it was quite funny. My mum rang me at one point. She obviously had noticed, as mothers do, that I wasn't doing so well, and that, she actually rang me and she said, right, there's a knitting shop. It's 3 blocks from where your boat currently is. We're on a super remote island, remember? 3 blocks away. I've just emailed you a pattern to knit a sweater, and I want you to go and buy the wool, and you're going to teach yourself how to knit. And I did.
Wow.
I walked to this, and I will always remember this knitting shop. There was a gorgeous woman that owned it.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I bought this wool, and then every day, and it's one of those things, I think, a creative outlet and something that you are creating for you is probably the 2 things that really made me be able to kind of not dissociate, but step myself out of that environment that was on board. And I had to teach myself something new. So it was a challenge. Usually I would have gone, running was always my outlet. Running was always my way to shake things off, to move through things. And where we were and the amount of sailing that we were doing and the remote places we were at, I wasn't getting ashore. I couldn't go running. We weren't a big boat. There was no gym, all of these things. So having that moment for myself of sitting down with a cup of tea and doing my knitting like a little granny, it sounds bizarre, but it was really pivotal between that and, some of the other crew members on board, which were godsends. They are still some of my closest friends to this day. And it was having those relationships and that really got me through it. And we'll forever be grateful for those people and those relationships as well.
What's a wise mum? I mean, must spoke about it later. What gave her the idea for you that knitting would be your outlets?
It's really funny. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea. Mum she's an avid knitter, and she sews all the time, candy crafts and making beautiful things. And to be honest, I don't think it even came from a place of this is going to help. I think it came from a place of it's the only way I can help. She was back in New Zealand. I was in, Northern Europe. And I think she was just like, well, it makes me feel good.
Yes.
It was almost, I think, out of a place of desperation, but it really was something that became quite significant for me.
And it's
mad.
Distraction. It takes you away from that world.
Absolutely. And God forbid, she didn't give me a nice, easy pattern. It was something that was like, I looked at it and I remember saying to her, like, this is stupid. I'm never going to be able to do this. And she was like, just try, just keep working. And it was, I actually had to concentrate on it and be fully, and I think it comes back to similarly to meditation and things like that. It's being fully present in that moment and doing something, for me, it's something tactile, but also something that brings you centered into that. Nothing else can come into that moment with you. It doesn't matter what that other crew member is saying about you or thinking about you. It doesn't matter that you can't access the food that you want to eat, or you can't go for a run, or those, all of those things where you can't be at home. You're fully centered, and you have to concentrate on what is in your hands and is right there in front of you. And I think that was, a huge part of it.
Sounds very powerful.
Yeah, knitting. Who would have guessed?
Yeah.
I've got the latest one on the go here.
So instead of having a box of tissues in my office, just have a
mate, get a ball of yarn and some needles and you'll be away laughing. You'll be out of business, Gary.
That's the aim. There'll be no need for counselling. So talking about counselling, obviously I'm curious from a professional perspective, but more interested in wanting to know your journey. How was it for you reaching out? And you said the company provided the EAP program, but making that step, because you didn't have to engage, you didn't have to follow it through, but you made that bold move.
Yeah, well, I guess for me, so the first counsellor I actually went and saw was not through my EAP either. It was someone that a family friend, when my mum had spoken to him about me coming home, a friend of ours was like, this is the person you need to call. This is who you need to go and speak to, and you need to take some time. And I went and spoke to her, and funnily enough, she is the woman that I still go and speak to nowadays. But it was a really hard, I still remember making the phone call. My hands were shaking.
Yeah.
I was, there's something, to go to a doctor's office, we don't even think twice. You pick up a call, you're like, exactly. You're like, I've got the snivels. I need an appointment. But to pick up the phone and say, I need help, I'm not the person that I want to be, that's brutal.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal. And I think the initial conversation that I had with Yana is her name, and when I had my initial consultation with her, I walked out of it, rang a friend of mine who I know has been in therapy for a very long time, and was like, I hate this. It's like, what? She knows nothing about yachting and what the realities of my life are on board. Yeah. And it's killing me. And 2, she kept saying, I feel sorry for you. And, Xanthe, I feel all of these emotions for you. And I was like, don't you feel sorry for me? I just need to be tougher. And I walked out of it. And I'm really glad that my very good friend Marie said to me, maybe that's a you problem, Xanthe. And you need to always think about why you don't like someone feeling bad for you or acknowledging that things are hard. And I was like, well, I don't like it being a me problem. I'll tell you that much for sure. And it's a hard journey, and it is work. When they say that therapy is work, it is. You actually have to go, and every time you walk through that door or you jump on that Zoom call or, any of that, you actually have to be vulnerable and question yourself and work on yourself and be prepared to show up day in, day out and do that, put in that effort, because it's not a walk in the park, and it does bring up a lot that a lot of people will spend their lives pushing back down. And the courage that it takes to show up and to be prepared to make those changes in your life it's immense. And, to anyone who is taking those first steps and has maybe just been to their first session at therapy and is sitting there going, oh, I don't want to go back. Like, it made me feel things that I don't want to feel things. That's it. That's the point. That's the point. You need to step outside of your comfort zone if you want to make those changes. And for me, it was uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable. And from what I'm trying to do with Wave Wellness is really try and limit that discomfort. So that's why I only work with people who have worked in yachting. And it's, trying to make sure that you feel like that's your safe space. And a good psychotherapist will always make you feel safe, but it is your responsibility, I think, as an individual to show up for yourself. And it's hard. It's hard.
Xanthe, I could put it better. You really explain succinctly the realities for the patient, for the client, in terms of showing up and engaging in therapy. And now, if you've never had an experience like that before, or you had open conversation at home or with your friends, then it's huge. Let's just use your word, discomfort. It's uncomfortable. And you're probably thinking, I don't want to be here. As you said, a lot of people after the first session, I don't want to go back because I don't like what is bringing out in me, the thoughts and the feelings. But in order to move forward, it is so necessary. And I'm pleased that you had your very good. Her name, Marie?
Marie, yeah.
I'm glad she challenged you from another base to say, perhaps it's you, not
Yes. And you're the problem. I am the whole problem, Marie. I tell you what.
the best way to get away with.
Exactly. And that is another, that's a sign of it. I've always heard people say things like, your best friend, they're your best therapist. And it's so true. You have to surround yourself with people that challenge you in those ways as well, and make sure that they can hold the mirror up to you and be like, do you like what you see? Or, how can we get through this? So yeah, I think your community, the people you put around yourself are pivotal to all of that.
So Xanthe, big question. What's your vision? What's the vision for Wave Wellness?
Oh, great question. The vision for Wave Wellness, I want to see a cultural shift in this industry. It's the reason that I opted to go for an employee assistance model rather than individual support. Very easily could have just gone one-to-one on to each individual crew member, but I don't think that makes a change for everyone. I think when we start having these conversations in the crew mess, and we start having these conversations at a management level, that's when we start seeing these shifts. And by creating a resource that management can acknowledge that crew, maybe they do need a little bit more than just a monthly salary and a few more days leave every year. When we start acknowledging the person behind the uniform, then we start getting places. And that's where I want to get to, is that Wave Wellness isn't just about helping an individual make a change in their life or even know that they have access to the support should they need it. It's about bringing the conversations into the forefront in the employment environment and making sure that crew feel like they can have these conversations with management, that they could ring up the management company and say, hey, look, I'm not in a good headspace and I'm going to need to take a week off and I need to come back to being myself. And the management company isn't going to, typical to this industry, isn't going to turn around and fire them and, send them packing. They're going to go, oh, cool, we'll make sure you're using Wave Wellness and, you've got all the access there. And if there's anything we can do to support you, let us know. That's the shift that I want to see in this industry.
And what's a needed and significant shift that will be? And I believe it's happening now. The fact that it's in your mind, you've got the heart, the shift has already happened for you and it will start having a ripple effect. So practically, Xanthe, what help or resources do you need? Because you're building your business, you're building a brand that others can help you on this journey.
So from my side of things, I think talking about Wave Wellness, talking about mental health is only going to benefit everyone in the long run. At the moment, I am, as you know, I'm building the business, getting an exposure, which is why I'm here in Palma, and just trying to engage with crew and talk to them. I'm starting to get, a bit of a presence online and through social media, and, crew are out there and they are interested in what we're doing. Follow along on social media, have a look. And if you want me to have a conversation with your captain or you want some resources to have the conversation with your management companies or captains about bringing Wave Wellness on board, I'm more than happy to. And, the beauty of being a business in that startup phase is my inbox is always open. I'm always here for a conversation with people. And if there is any way that I can help you access support, then I'm all ears and I'm happy to help. But in a practical sense as well, where I'm working with a few different places around the world to host crew wellbeing events. So we just hosted one here in Palma 2 weeks or a week and a half ago, where I provided meditation, breathwork and ice experiences for crew, followed by, which you wanted. We'll get you, Gary. We'll get you. I told you, October. And then there was breakfast and coffee afterwards. And the beautiful thing about it was the ice bath and the breathwork was beautiful. And it was a really nice way for crew to have a reset and a little mini moment in their busy weekend. It was actually off the back of the Palma Super Yacht Cup. So everyone had been quite busy, but it also created that space for the community and connection. And I think for me, that's like a massive part of it, is reaching out to your friends and staying in touch in the busy seasons. But yeah, with like, come along, attend, share the content that we're putting out. And, the more boats that I can get Wave Wellness onto, the more change we can see in the industry, and we can start making this a more employee-friendly environment.
And as you speak, I've got some ideas for you when you come back in October. I know you're not here for long, but we'll speak about that after the show.
Love that.
Xanthe, before we come to the end, what would you now say to, classic question, but important, what would you say to Xanthe back then, who's having a tough time, their first crew, and just desperate for the season to end and leave the industry?
That's a good question. What would I say to little Xanthe? I think I'd take up knitting earlier. I think a really big thing that I would remind Xanthe of is that you always are who you are. Like, you always have yourself, and you can always come back to that person. And I think the best reminder of that is the people that you surround yourself with. So don't let yourself get to a point where you feel like you don't have your people. Whether it is, this industry is both incredibly rewarding for connection, but also incredibly hard to stay connected, because your family and your friends are on the other side of the world, or the people that have known you since you were little. But these amazing connections that you build on board are pivotal. And those people that you surround yourself with when you're on board, be them crew or the boat next door or people that you go running with or drinking with at the pub, those are the people that really shape who you are and give you that support network while you're away from those core foundational members of your network. And I think focusing on that and kind of coming back to yourself and making sure that you're making choices for who you are and not who you want to be seen as, it's huge. It's huge. And it would have set me up very differently, I think, if 17-year-old Xanthe had realized that when she got into yachting.
Well, Xanthe, especially you say, you always have yourself to go back to. Don't lose sense of self. And that is the anchor, no pun intended, but that is the anchor. So, you've got a great way with words. I'm stealing half of them. I'm going to put them in my book.
Copyright Xanthe.
So we were speaking earlier when Rishi was saying about the list that she said, the negatives of the yachting industry, we say, but also there's a lot of great things about it. So what would you say now to people entering into the yachting industry in terms of that would help better prepare them?
Yeah, I think, as we spoke about earlier, I think there's a lot of incredible stuff to be grateful for in this industry, the places we go to, the people we meet, the lifestyle it can set us up for, as well as, like Marissa was saying, the skills that you can learn and the takeaways, the resilience that you build, all of these things that they're yours forever. That doesn't, you can spend your paycheck by next week, but you learn these core skills that you just have to keep your eyes open to. And on the other hand, with the negative experiences in the yachting industry, I think in one mind, you don't want to focus on them. Don't let them rule your life, but don't be naive to it. I think understanding that it can be isolating, and that's okay, that you could end in situations that could be dangerous. Don't be naive. Call it out before it becomes a problem. And it's hard, and it takes bravery to stand up in those situations, but try and look at the world with your eyes wide open. Take those good things and really hold on to them and make sure that they are yours and they are what you're in this for. But don't discount that the negative is there and you have to move past that.
Wise words. My daughter, I told you, is considering the yachting industry. I'll definitely make her watch this before she makes a final decision.
And make sure she gets wellness on her boat.
I guess. Yeah. End of deal. Xanthe, absolute pleasure. And I know that's a familiar saying at the end of an interview, but it sincerely is. And the fact that you do have a way of words, the wisdom, the honesty, the sincerity, and the heart to, as it make it that culture shift for the better, so people are supported in, freedom of choice. You said before the show, regards to food, financial literacy, personal well-being, and just making the people. There's a person behind uniform, to use your words, and to me that can only be better for everyone concerned, from the owner to the captain to the crew, all people affected who are part of the yachting industry team. And I do believe that your vision, because of your heart and your determination, will be created during your lifetime and beyond, but you're not going anywhere yet. So
no, I'm not going anywhere yet.
So yeah, thank you once again. And if people want to reach out to you, what are the best contact details?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me is typically through Instagram, because all of my links are on there. It's at WaveWellness with an extra S on the end. Don't. That was a really dire day when I was doing my domain name. And if you would like to check out my website, it is www.wavewellness.com, again with an extra S on there. And yeah, feel free to fill in a contact form on there and I will get back to you probably within the day. Okay.
Right. Great. So again, thank you, Xanthe. As she mentioned, the yachting industry is a great career, great opportunities, but don't be naive of the negative things that can happen but just really know why you're in there and don't lose sense of self. Always return to you. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much for having me, Gary. And I'm so looking forward to putting you in an ice bath in October.
If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.